brush where the metal is ending. Okay, we hold brush over here very close to the bristles when we are making straight lines or very detailed works. Like when we are doing very small and detailed works, then. Okay, otherwise we hold the brush here and we just go by the line and we just go like this. Okay, but if when we have to add detail on it, we'll hold the brush a little bit in front and we add it. Again, if we want to spread this, we'll again go back and we'll spread this. Clear? Till here? Okay. Now, this is the basic way of holding the brush. Okay. Now, while coloring, when we are coloring, there are two ways of taking color from your palette. Okay. Now, one is you take color right like this, which is advisable not to be done. Okay, because when you take color like this, see the amount of color that is coming. Okay, and then when you do, it just gets blotted in one place. Correct? So, we always take color on the tip of the brush and from the corner. Okay? And you keep on pulling it till the time it comes. Right? So now you see you have color on all the sides of brush. Right? You have color on all the sides of brush. Now you don't dip it fully in water. You just dip the tip. Okay? So that the color is flowing easily on your paper. Okay? And then when you color this, you have a smooth flow and you have same amount of color everywhere because the entire round of your brush has got the same amount of color. Whereas in the first technique, what was there? It was just on one side. This we will use only when you want to, let's say this is some door or window and you want to show a very dry kind of an effect over there. Okay. So then you just take color on one side, like a very rustic look. Okay. Then you just go like this. Because you want that at one place the color should be too much. Then only you take in that method. Otherwise always the tip. Okay. The other way is when your palette becomes like this. When your palette is like this. See, in this it is very easy to take it from the side because you know that the color is flowing down. Right. But here your color has all become flat. So in this what you do, you hold the brush here and you curve it. You go round. Right? So you go like this, you go like this. You never take color like this. This spoils your brush. Because when we take color like this, I am forcing my bristles to bend like this, which may change the shape of your brush, which will spoil your work. So, you just, and even when you're taking like this, you should take it from the tip and then you just curve them. So when you're curving, every single bristle, every single hair of your brush is getting color on it. Okay? And then you start coloring. Now see, the hold of brush totally depends on your comfort, like how you hold it. But the place of hold matters a lot. If you hold here and if you want to try to get this effect, you will not get because you don't have so much control on the brush. If you hold here, then you have too much control on the brush. So it is very good for doing detailed work. Okay, like you want to add some, like you just want to add some kind of maybe dots or just a thin line, some patterns and all, then you hold it in front because you need the tip to work. Otherwise, the best place to hold is always this part. And then you cut. Now sometimes, okay, is it clear till here? how to hold brushes, where to hold brushes, how to take colors when it's totally fresh and when it's already present in the palette from beginning. Okay? Now, there are 2-3 ways when we also use brush with painting. Sometimes we use the tip of the brush, sometimes we use the full bristle. Sometimes we use half bristle. Okay? Now let's say if I have a drawing here. Right? Let's say we have this drawing here. Now, when I am coloring this part, what do you think? Will I be using the tip of the brush or the full brush? Full brush, half, but not the tip. Right? Because this is where I don't need to do anything in detail. Or it's not a very small area, it's a broad area, right? So I can easily use now always before you take color, make sure your brush is dipped in water and you take out the extra water. Okay? Because dry brush will give you this kind of a look and that will also spoil your brush. You can get this look with absolutely no water in brush, but the bristles should be slightly wet. Otherwise brush may split, and the split brush is not a good news for water paint. Maybe a good news for acrylic and all, but not a good news for water. Okay? Now I'll take the color. Now the reason I will again dip my brush in water is because when I take color on my brush, the tip becomes dry. And then I have too much of water, too much of color in my brush. Right? So first I take how much of a color I want. And then since I have water here only, so I'll take water from here. And then, see, I'm holding it here. Now since it's a round object and I want to show the curve, so I am using more or less, like let's say a little bit more than half and less than full. So I'm not making it totally flat also, and I'm not just doing half. Right? So I'm going more than half and less than full in the place where I am coloring. Okay? Right? Fine. Now when I have to do this place, do you think will I use tip or half of it? We'll go with tip. Okay? We will go with tip over here. But I'll again be holding here. I won't be going here because I'm not doing detailing. Okay? So, I'm more working with the tip. But when I have to fill this, I'll go with half or full. But just to make sure that my corners are right, I'm avoiding the entire brush, but I'm just using the tip of the brush. Right? That's why thin lines are also possible with brush number 12. Because if you work with, let's use 10. If you use the tip, even a 10 number brush will give you a thin line as equivalent to brush number 0. Okay, so you have to know that which part of the bristle has to be used. Okay? Right? Now when you're adding details that you will do once it's dry and considering it to be fair. So once you are adding details, the position of your hold on the brush will change. I have no idea which all colors I'm mixing, I'm just taking colors randomly. Okay, then you hold like a typical pencil how we hold. Okay, because we need more grip and more control on the brush. Right? And now if let's say you want to show some kind of shadow over here or any further, but if you have noticed, I waited for this thing to dry. So I completed the bigger area first and then I finished all the small lines and details, like sorry, not the details but the thinner areas.
Water doesn't make sense much at all.
Yes, and it doesn't just flow here and there because water plays its own role in spreading our colors. And our designs remain where it is supposed to be. Right? Okay, so now this is what is just adding a little bit of finishing touch to your work. Now let's say you want to show that this one should be a little bit smudged and all. So then you take only water in brush, no color, and again using a half brush. Right? Okay? Understood? Clear? Now I'll show the last thing. Now many times we color like this, so let's say I have a color here and I want to show the shadow of it in this part. Okay, and as we know that shadow gradually fades, correct? Shadow doesn't remain same throughout. So first obviously, I mean, let's assume there's a color over here and on top of that I have to show the shadow here. So the darkest shade will definitely be done on the top from where the shadow is starting. Now in order to make it look that it is gradually fading, you use water. You can use color depending on how much color is here. If too much of color is here, then you don't take color. But if you feel that color is less, you may need color, then you take color. Okay? But the water quantity will be much. Now you start fading the shadow, not from here, but from the edge. You only touch the edge because you want the shadow to fade gradually, right? And then you can just add a little bit of color on this place. Because of water touching that place suddenly becomes white. Okay, and if you further want to make it, again you just touch the edge. Edge is basically the place where your previous color is finishing, just like how we used to do it in oil pastel. Now if you have this place and this place, now tell me which one looks correct. Is this or this? So because we have to make it look, it is gradually fading. So always remember, whenever you are bringing out or you're pulling the color, the pulling should never happen from where the color has started, but
from the edge.
But from the edge, correct. From where it is ending. Even if it is a very thin line, even if it is as thin as this, it should still be. So when it's a very thin line, you have to be very careful. Okay? That you don't touch the top side of the line. And you just try and keep your, but you don't even go down. You have to touch the line, but the bottom part, which is towards you, or whichever side you want the shading to. Okay, because if you take from the top, then you see there's a difference. Then the darkness fades away from the place from where it is not supposed to. So, are we clear on how to hold brush, where to hold brush, how to hold the brush while coloring, while detailing, and how to pull colors from showing a fade or a shade, a changing shade. Are we good to go? Okay, and your palette should not be empty. Before you start drawing, you should have colors in your palette. Okay? And if you have colors which were already there in the palette, like beforehand, and they have all dried up, so before even you start your drawing, make sure you have put at least 2 drops of water in the color, so that when you are starting to paint, your colors are ready to be painted. Because obviously you can't paint from this hard, and when you try to pull the hard colors, it will not come out the way it should come out. Okay? But when you put water beforehand, then it starts soaking, and the color starts soaking, and the color and the water seeps in it. Alright? So you make sure that your colors are always out. So I'll use a new palette. Okay, now in watercolor, don't be worried that if you take out too much color, because watercolors, unlike acrylic, can be reused and reused and reused. Okay, till the time it becomes like this, when there is no color left. Okay, but suggestion, don't take out too much also. Like, don't make it pura palette hi bhar diya usse. Don't do that. Okay, I'll just take out few general colors. And now for this, when the color is already out from beforehand, you have added water, right? But in these, you don't need to add water on the color. So what you do is you just pour slight water, like one drop water in the other side where you have taken out color. Now if you would have noticed, I have not taken out colors in this gap. Okay, I have taken out colors in these sides, and I have put water in this side. Okay, because when you're mixing colors, you can take the color from here and you can take water from here, and then you can do the mixing. Right? But if this entire color is poured over here, then this water will come on it and it will act like this. Now this is already softer than this, right? So we don't want it to become absolutely watery. Okay? So that is one. Now while coloring, there is no hard and fast rule that you have to use round brush or flat brush. Okay? Give me a round and flat both. Now, like, it's not that you have to use round or flat only. Depending on the drawing that you are doing, depending on the image that we are coloring, we choose which brush we are going to go with. Also depends on your comfort level. Like when it comes to me, I'm more comfortable with round brushes. I can bring the flat effect with a round brush also. I have one student who can bring a round effect with flat brush. So it depends on how you get used to it and comfortable with it. Okay, but initially, in the beginning stage, we say go by the object of which you are doing. For any curved object, anything with curved edges and all, we prefer round brushes because round brushes have got like tips, which you will not find in flat brushes, right? So if you want to do a curved edge over here, let's say this is a curved edge. So here, if you're trying to work with flat brush, it will not give you a proper curve. See, the curve gets hidden, right? But if it's a straight edge, then flat is always advisable. Because then you get a proper straight finish. Okay? Make sense? Right. But it's not that in an edgy way you cannot use flat brush. You can, but the only thing is you'll have to be very careful when you are at the edge. So at the edge you will have to keep on going like this. And then you go like this. But the edge will come, and in that place you just use the tip of your brush. Okay? Right? Now, how to use brush and how to hold brush while you are painting. Always advisable, hold brush over here. Never hold brush here. Okay? Because if you hold brush here, then